and welcome to this session. We are focusing on giver's gain, which in Eli Review parlance means the benefits that students get from giving helpful feedback. And so I want to make sure that we sort of really think about the effectiveness of peer feedback as being lots of things. It's not just one little element, it's got to have a whole culture. But that culture really begins with the questions that you give your students to frame how they look at each other's work and how they respond to each other. And so that's why we've invited CJ from San Francisco State and Allison from University of Minnesota to share one of the peer reviews in their courses and their communication courses. And I'm really excited about this session because I've talked to both of these instructors for several times, and I know their goals for what they do with peer review in their courses are different from the ones that characterize first-year writing. And so we want to celebrate those differences and understand them and give them a chance to talk about what they've had to do to adopt their pedagogies to work well with Eli and how Eli has also maybe adapted their pedagogy. So CJ, I'm going to ask you to start, and you can share your screen when you're comfortable, and just start by telling us a little bit about the course you teach and then the writing assignment.
Sure. Hi everyone. Thanks for coming. I'm so I'll use a very West Coast word. I'm stoked to be here, and and Eli has kind of transformed. You know the shtick. So in communication studies, the class that I have piloted Eli in full on is the health communication class that I teach. So it's COM 527. It focuses on issues of health and the ways in which communication studies kind of intersect with that. So I have the major assignment is a semester-long health blog. So I assemble students into teams of 3 and 4. They select a health problem or health issue that can be either physical health, like diabetes or cancer, or mental health, like depression or anxiety or bipolar disorder, or a social problem, which is kind of a new category. It's homelessness, gun violence, structural racism, that kind of stuff. So teams select the problem, and then there are 4 assignments spread out through the semester. That I think of as kind of developmental. So this is kind of developmental article or drafts that I see as kind of a blog content development, basically. So it's like I'm guiding them through the content development steps where they're sort of thinking about one particular health problem from 4 different perspectives throughout the semester. So so these drafts are turned in intermittently throughout the semester. They do peer reviews after each one. And then it becomes an individual task where where one person on the team will take that individual draft and look through the comments to prioritize through the peer review, and then to revise that as an individual grade. So the first part of the course development of the blogs is a collective task, so they can coordinate and organize that according to what they need or want. But then it ends up being a revision task that's an individual task. So that's kind of how it is. And these 4 different assignments, I'll show you the first one as I share my screen here. And just to make sure that I'm clear on what the task is, is that clear relatively what I'm talking about? Okay, great. So so here is for health blog number 1. And the first assignment is basically what I call the facts and figures. Like, what the heck is this problem? Like some people have never heard of gender dysphoria. And so, for a general audience, because this is the goal of this assignment is for them to actually produce an actual live blog that the world can see. So this is what I call an issue of public scholarship. They're writing for an educated general audience, but where they have attained some expertise in this particular problem. So here it is, this facts and figures. This is the very first one. I give them a couple of resources to get them started, to show them the kind of things that I'm looking for. So these are sort of not fringy, super weird, corners of the internet. This is like Mayo Clinic and WebMD, so they can sort of look for and think about like, okay, which kinds of things. So their goal is to then sort of, look for these various sites, try to piece together something that will help them to characterize this problem for a general audience. I give them some questions to think through. They don't have to respond to these questions, but I encourage them to, because it helps them to think through like what kinds of issues might be useful for somebody that's coming to this problem new. And here is where this formatting component here is basically my tip towards the Eli and the review task itself. So I sort of give them like, here's the parameters of the writing task that I want you to pay attention to. And so, each one of these then will be linked in their review. So, and then I just ask them to cut and paste it into here. So that's kind of what the assignment task looks like. Fast forward, zip. Yep. To the review task, and here we have Catherine Janeway and Benjamin Sisko, and again, so here they're the identification tasks. So here, there should be nothing here that's a surprise except for this one, and I want this to be kind of a surprise, just to let them know, like, hey, one of the things I'm looking for in the revision is that you're going to incorporate course ideas into your draft. So these drafts, I should say, are also meant to be very short. So the initial draft is 500 words. The revision is 750 words, just to sort of, make sure that it's readable for a general audience. And so, I, from assignment to assignment, I sort of tweak this trait identification for the very first one, because each assignment has its own contingencies, and I want them to structure it in a very particular way. But after that, the trait identifications, and the scaled responses and all the contextual comments remain identical throughout the 4 assignments. So while one part might change, this very first box, all the rest of it is identical, so that they can kind of get a little bit of a repetition, by doing that revision task overall. And then, then I sort of highlight various things: word choice, voice and tone, writing conventions. Like, these things are all familiar to all of you, I believe. And then in terms of, this is just kind of like the take the temperature sort of thing, for an introductory health blog for a general educated reader who knows nothing about the health problem or issue, how did they do? Like, this is like taking the temperature overall and like, this helps to give the feedback for the teams, like, okay, you did a pretty good job, or not so great, right? And then another kind of aspect of that, the limited or effective, like just to take the temperature. And then I ask them to do 2 contextual comments with the describe, evaluate, suggest framework. And then I give them some examples. So I'm really encouraging them to use the criteria from those tick boxes as a way to demonstrate that they're paying attention to very particular aspects of the assignment itself. So just to wrap up, I let them know that it's not on this one, but after the very first one, I asked them to have at least 200 words per review, and I asked them to review 2 other teams' responses. And if they don't reach that 200 word mark for their contextual comments, then they don't get full credit. So that's my kind of incentive, and I've noticed that, even that low threshold of 200 words is like, the detail goes up dramatically with around that 150 to 200 word response requirement. And like, over the semester, they've really embraced it. And I've been so thrilled. So, so that's the review task. Was there one more thing you wanted me to say about it?
Yeah, just to continue that thread that you stopped on, how do you know this is working, right? Like, what gives you confidence that this review process is helping your students learn the skills you want them to learn?
I mean, one of the things I emphasize in this particular assignment is that, better than me, they themselves are the audience for whom they're writing. So in that sense, like, I have all kinds of things I could say about it, but it's my area of scholarship, that's my business. But for them as general people, like, be generous and be critical. And so how can they actually help one another to, not only to learn, to give feedback, but also to benefit and, like, givers gain, as you said. It's like, by reading other people's things, they also gain insight into their own writing. And over the course of the semester, I've seen them balloon from, 50 and 75 words to 300 words, 350 words, where they're really identifying areas like, I didn't really understand when you use this term, or, maybe you should put a definition here, or how about an example? I mean, so they're generating, specific items that is showing that they are also kind of being attuned to the kinds of things that a general reader needs to know about each of the assignment, because they've done the assignment themselves. So, it's like that really great match of, I know the task and I'm suited to it, and now I can sort of use that knowledge to be able to critique and evaluate and to suggest to other people something that might be useful for them.
That's great. Thanks so much for sharing, CJ. And
Thanks so much.
after Allison presents, we'll open the floor for questions. So if you have something you're just burning to ask CJ, hold it for just a little bit. And so Allison, I'll ask you to do the same. Would you tell us a little bit about your course, and then share with us your writing assignment and or the peer review, whichever you're most comfortable with.
Insert joke about being able to mute myself. My name's Allison Brenneise. I'm at the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. The course I use Eli Review in is analysis of argument. It's a 1,000 level required course for majors. We are seeing more and more non-majors take this course as freshmen and sophomores. Most of our majors have, once they declare, they find out that this is part of their game, and they are juniors and seniors. So I have a wide variety of people with a lot of different abilities. And one of our course objectives is that students back up their claims with evidence. And another course objective that I think is just really critical to be citizens in the world is that folks need to be able to know how to give and receive and use feedback. And I tell stories in my class about friends that I have that are out working in the world, right? And their employer comes to them and says, do better, and walk away, right? And they don't know how to do better. And so in one of the ways that I'm trying to help them be better communicators and better arguers in the world is giving people specific things that they can do to do better. And so let me share my screen with you to talk to you about the assignment that I am so sorry, my phone is on mute, and they called 3 times and I don't know the number, so they're gonna have to stop, sorry. The breakthrough phone call threw me off. Okay, so what I ask my students to do is a semester-long project in which they do many iterations of similar things. They propose the project, which is my chance to make sure their claim is solid. And we do a lot of that work in Eli first, just giving people, having conversations around what they're interested in, what are the questions that, of social significance that keep them up at night, and then they get an idea and they propose a claim. We do a source evaluation and reflection, and we use Eli to look at APA citation very, very closely. They do an argument version 1. So this is like their first attempt at putting forth a solution to their social problem. It is often a paper that is mostly based on what is the need and not so much what the solution is. And peer response in this place helps people get to realize, oh, there's more work to be done. They also respond another time to argument version 1 to help them work as resistant readers and to identify counter arguments that should go in their claims. And then they do one more review, which will happen at the end of this week, where they give each other feedback on multimodal elements, on their counter argument, and kind of the overall body of their work. And they finally do the final assignment. The version 3 is pretty much cleaning it up. So I asked them, I kind of felt put to shame a little bit, CJ, that yours is so your assignment is so spelled out, and I am here, just upload your version 1. You have written it, please just do it. But I like that you're using the feature where people can comment and touch. You can use that built-in feature that my students aren't getting to use, and I'm a little jealous, so I might change that now. I offer them a guideline due date. I'm working with a grading contract this semester, trying to be more equitable in my grading and having students focus more back on my feedback than on the grade. And so I have a guideline due date that just lets them have a free weekend. I have a hard due date, which is the moment before I come back and put them in peer response groups. And folks are being able to manage their time and ask for extensions without bothering me in the discussion. So it's working well. If they don't have it in for the Sunday when I put them into peer response, they lose peer response feedback. And they have now come to realize that this is such a critical aspect of their learning. People aren't coming late. Let me switch.
Good job, Allison.
Thank you for all your help. This person, Melissa, is a champion who makes me look good. So I asked students to read through the essay slowly before making any marks, and to consider how they feel as they read, because that is a comment that they can make going through. And then I asked them to do many of the things you just saw CJ talk about. Let me switch to what that actually looks like. We do trait identification, like are all the things I ask you to have in the paper there. That's a first alert. More about the structure of what I am asking for. And then I use the 5-star rating to be able to identify really, really good examples that I could show in class is, this is being done really well. How do we move this other one that isn't doing so well? How do we move this person that is a colleague of yours that you care about? How do we get them up to where this other piece is? We also do the contextual comments with hashtags, which it took Melissa telling me 1,000 times why a hashtag is amazing. And now I sing that from the mountaintops, right? You can either get a block of text that you can't move around, or you could have discrete boxes that you can put in your revision plans, and they catch on after the first time. But I asked them, what are their impressions? And Melissa worked really closely with me to help me create closed sentences to try and even out the kinds of feedback folks are giving each other, so that they don't feel put out if they're giving an awful lot of feedback. And I never hear people complain. At the second time we do this, people are no longer complaining that they gave more than they got back. The reason I'm talking to you about this right now is that I just met with all of my students in 20-minute meetings, and they said I had groups of students that were paired for this assignment, this review, that talked to me about each other's reviews. Like in our meetings, they're like, hey, this student, they cite like every third sentence. Is that the standard? Well, yes, it is. That's what you should be doing. Or this person feels like they had like worthless evidence. And I got to say, was there a claim in the paper? Well, no, right? Like, so your evidence doesn't do anything if there's no path to guide it. And so I think my student, like, that is just an example that they're taking their cues from each other to figure out how to be better, and they are becoming better. That's what I got.
Great. Thank you, Allison. I also just want to say that Allison gives me more credit than I deserve. Her assignment had all the pieces, and what we had to do was translate it into a format that's going to work well in Eli Review. So I always think of it as a partnership. We are always putting the things that we know and love together to make it better. It is peer learning all the way down. And Ingrid asked about the hashtag thing, so I'll take that one because it is kind of hard to explain. Allison, would you show one again, just so we can talk about it? When students leave a single comment, like a contextual comment, and that puts the hashtag at the front, so hashtags are like in Twitter or Facebook, it's like indicating a theme. What that does for the reviewer is it makes them understand that they're commenting on one thing. I'm commenting on my impressions, and they don't slip around and start talking about clarity when they're talking about impressions. And so it's an organizational device for the reviewers for doing that. It also, when the writer receives it, they're going to get, the way Eli chunks up the comments, they'll get all the comments from, say, CJ in one set, and then all the comments from Allison in another set. And so as a writer, I have to put those together. And the hashtags then let me build that in the revision plan together. So I can put everything that's about impressions in one spot, everything that's about a clarity in another spot. And therefore, my revision plan is not just highest to least, which is the natural order of a revision plan in Eli Review, but it can also be, oh, highest to lowest for impression, highest to lowest for clarity, and all those categories kind of just give it a spot. Now, as a researcher, the benefit of the hashtags is that it makes your job so much easier. Like if you want to do qualitative analysis about student comments and they have hashtagged it for you, wow, you are miles ahead before you even start by doing that. But the reason we do it is because it attunes reviewers to pay attention to the range of things they're talking about. And then it helps writers organize those things on the back end.
Melissa, I was trying to find one to show. I wanted to find one where it's all muddled together. If people don't hit the individual comment button, all of this goes together into one piece that you can't move around. But if they use the hashtag, each becomes a discrete box, and it makes life worth living.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that's that there's like a hard break for sections. That's really cool.
See, we all learn as we go. So we'll open the floor now for questions. What would you like to ask these two expert teachers?
I had a couple of questions in terms of your level of involvement with the reviews, in terms of, are you doing like the thumbs up for like instructor, like that you agree with these comments, or are you commenting on revision plans, or is this really in the hands of the students and then you're getting the final piece?
You're going to be sick of seeing my screen. So here, one of these I endorsed, or maybe I didn't endorse any of them. I go through and endorse what should be endorsed, and I do that. And I also respond to revision plans if they put something there for me to ask or to respond to. But one of the things I wanted to ask CJ was, do you find that when they have a rhythm that they're not reading it anymore, and you're not getting the answers you want because it has become rote?
I haven't had that experience. Maybe, I mean, this is the first time that I had a very small pilot of Eli in the spring with my graduate class, but this is the first semester I'm actually using it full tilt. And so, it's too early for me to say in that sense, but I mean, now that you're bringing my attention to it, I'll certainly be attentive to that. But I want to also respond to Ingrid in terms of my experience. I'm teaching junior and senior level class, and so I ask them to, before they revise, to meet with me as a team, so they all have their comments together, and that we can kind of talk through them, and they can be the ones to initiate which comments that they want to talk about or like prioritize or ask me about. So I interact with the reviews very little. I'm really putting it all on them. And this is a tool for them to help to organize and be a little bit more organized about the way in which they read and give reviews. So it's really more an organizational tool for them rather than a kind of a grading thing for me. So.
Other questions?
maybe it's like super quick to do it, but will you guys is there anything on Eli about using the hashtags? Like, it sounds amazing, but honestly, like maybe my bandwidth just isn't there. Like, I can't quite understand it right now, except to know that it looks great, especially like for research purposes. I love it. So are there some specific resources on the Eli website, or?
No, but I will make that one of my Christmas writing projects just for you, Ingrid, and it will be a gift for you to anticipate, I don't know, after MLK.
Well, I mean, but there's some embedded in the review tasks, like the describe, evaluate, suggest one. There's instructions about, sort of about using the hashtags for the various aspects of like content or voice or, so there are some examples that are sort of inside the review tasks themselves. So if you if you have some favorite ones, you might even scroll down to the bottom or at least even just start with the describe, evaluate, suggest review task to the generic one that the Millis has put together. There's something there too. So they're around, they're in there.
And I think the hashtags are most powerful when they match your assignment, right? So it's figuring out, like, Allison has these categories and she uses those categories consistently across the entire scaffold of her term. And so students need to know what those categories mean. And so the hashtags are just a way, again, of putting a fine point on it, right? Oh, impressions. Oh, clarity. Oh, evidence, right? And so those become like the themes that they are required to weave into the feedback they're giving each other and then putting on their plan. So I'm happy to work with any of you on it, and I will put together a kind of a generic resource that shows it. It is hard to wrap your head around, right? Like, it's hard because you say it one way in instructions and students do a thing, and then it becomes this record, this stream of data in the comment digest, and then you see it in a revision plan. So it's sort of like you have to go around two corners before, oh, this is the building that I'm supposed to be in. This is why I'm here. So like many things with Eli, it takes a little bit of patience, but I'm glad you find it exciting.
Oh, here's one. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Here's one that does not have hashtags, and this is why life is hard, because they put they've got their impressions in here. Wow. And they've got their reasoning in here, and they have something else in here, and I can't endorse it, right? Like, even if there was something great about the impressions, because there's all this stuff about reasoning in here and clarity, like, what am I endorsing? And so the hashtags, if you can see the difference between this, I'm sorry that my students' stuff is showing, but if you see that one versus this one, right? Like, I could, if there was something to endorse in the impressions here, I could, because they're discrete boxes, and them learning to use the hashtag is really important for me to be able to give them targeted feedback about, this is a great idea. Or if you see the blue endorse, I said that too.
And for building revision plans, right? I mean, if you use that for building a revision plan, that star rating will, pop it into the revision plan, and like, it makes it easier for them to also organize their responses. So,
yeah, great. Thank you both for sharing. I'm going to acknowledge that it is 3:30,